Yeah, that's one of the things I love about you is you are no hold bar John Fairclough. Like you don't hold back, and not in a mean way. And some people could perceive it that way if you just make a statement or say a bold comment about something your position, but you are adamant about staying true to yourself. And I feel like that's hard for a lot of people because you don't want to hurt people's feelings. You know, everyone's
Right.
like worried about everyone's feelings, but then
hmm
that makes them not be themselves.
So that people pleaser, this is very interesting. The people pleaser, right? They go along to get along,
Yeah.
and they kind of lose themselves, right? So that's like the byproduct. But there's this part that the people pleaser does is that the more they people please, the more they resent the people that they're pleasing. It's crazy, like phenomenon
It's
that happens.
true there.
You
Yeah.
start resentment grows, and so like you holding back on saying what needs to be said for only like rots the container. The resentment rots the container that it's held in. Well, if it's inside of me, it's going to rot me.
Right.
And this is just true. And so when you're talking about me being adamant about being me, it's because the most difficult things that I've endured in my life are tied to me going along to get along around what other people think and how they're going to perceive. I wanted to be viewed as a great something, right? And so I changed my behavior so that people will see me as that. And I lost being myself in that moment, and basically became an actor. Let me behave this way so that that person will continue to love me, or let me behave this way so that person will continue to work with me, or whatever the
Yeah.
case is. But that going along to get along is horrible. And I lived it in every part of my life. And so now I am adamant about being myself, even to the point of being offensive to other people. Let it be,
Even in personal relationships.
even in especially in personal relationships, because I want to have people close to me that are that are more authentic relationships. I don't want to have a lot of friends. I want to have my friends, right? I want to have that my core group.
But does that put at risk in the relationships around you? So if you're when you decide I'm going to be John and I'm going to stay true to what I feel, stuff, you had to know at some point you're going to lose people around you, whether it's in business, whether it's personal, and even with losing those, I'm sure you've lost people around you because of it, right?
Yeah.
How did you like kind of navigate that? Of all right, this person was super close to me, or they were a great business partner, or a great wife, or this or that, and as soon as I started becoming true, they went away. So like that's a real thing. Like especially when family dynamics and business dynamics.
hmm
Are you just okay with like, all right, walk away? I'm being me,
Yeah.
so
I
your
think
problem.
I think of it like a watch, right? And there's all these gears that are moving and they're interconnected in some way. And when you change the way that you, like, let's say I'm this way, but now all of a sudden I'm turning this way, and this is more natural and true to who I am, there's going to be some gears that break, like
Yeah,
after, like, hey, there's a disconnect because they only used you because you were providing something in this motion. But if this is the right motion, some of those other gears will adjust and then better connect with you. And so you said, how did I handle it? I was very hesitant, resistant. I didn't want to do it. And it took me getting finally to the point where I just didn't care anymore. I had to say something. And I wasn't sure what that outcome was going to be, but I felt such a weight off of me.
mm.
And then, I kind of did
Did it
it
start
there.
personally or just start professionally? Like, when did you make your first move in that regard?
It started kind of simultaneously
Hmm.
in a couple of different areas. Um, and it's not easy to slay the big dragon, first time around.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's more helpful to address some of the smaller dragons, right? But when we talk about relationship, let's talk about marriage. If I'm afraid of losing my wife because I'm uh, by becoming more myself, that's a problem relationship, right? And if I'm behaving that way, that hey, I'm afraid to be me, and the way you're going to respond to that, I'm afraid of that. That's a great conversation right there, right? Like, what a great first step. But when you had asked about, hey, what's going to happen here? and there might be a breakdown of relationships, and there might be some that go away. I'm not saying to go out there with reckless abandon and just like, I'm going to be me and to hell with everything. I'm not saying that, because we don't know what that is. Like, we don't really know who exactly we are, kind of our life's purpose. It's kind of an ongoing journey. However, there's certain pieces that are really stable in us, and to examine those and think about those, and then try to start to reform ourselves into more being ourselves. I think that's important.
Yeah.
And so if you really feel like, if somebody feels like these critical relationships might be at risk, should be a discussion around them. But some relationships are meant to break.
Yeah.
So, a lot of relationships are temporary, and we learn a lot from them, right? And so, uh, I still have a great relationship with my ex-wife. We have a great relationship. Um, there's a lot of trust
Did it
there.
fracture when you became truly yourself? Is that beginning of the fracture?
It started to fracture when I stopped going along to get along with her parents.
Mm.
That was the key piece.
Yeah.
And then it was very quickly, things fell apart very quickly, because then I was in a spot of having to confront that my wife was picking my in-laws over me. And then that was like, oh my goodness, and then it just started collapsing. And then in hindsight, looking at it, she had she didn't know these things in this manner, and her parents didn't know these things in that manner. They're good people. I was just thinking, so yesterday was Father's Day, and I shot my former father-in-law a message, and it just said, Happy Father's Day. Thank you for being so loving to my kids. You set a really great example. And so here he's an older man, not in the best health, but I got to say, this guy, um, he never made a ton of money, but he was always hardworking and always put his family first. He used to take a bus, right? He used to take a bus to work so that his kids had a car to drive to school. I don't know a lot of people that make that kind of sacrifice. So sure, we had our differences, and there were some things around the way that, his daughter was, because of him and his mom
Yeah.
and things. But I mean it in a loving way, not in a critical way. Like, those things kind of permeated into our relationship. But I have a lot of respect for him, and put all of his kids through Catholic education, but never making a ton of money. Like, so him and his wife sacrificed for their kids. They did such an unbelievable job of loving on their kids that way. There's other things that I'm sure happened that I'm not aware of, whatever struggles and things, but man, if you could be 80 some odd years old looking back, and you made those kinds of sacrifices for your kids and for your family and for their betterment, I think you got to feel pretty good about what you did.
Yeah.